Music in the Cafe, a Lukanette alternate universe month-long fanfiction. Each day will be based on a writing prompt from the Lukanette September 2019 calendar. I do not own this calendar. I will be linking the Tumblr post I found it in the description box below. Thank you for reading, listening, or watching. Please enjoy. Day 10, Baked Goods. To be completely honest, Marinette didn't know how she had gotten here, but there were no complaints from her whatsoever. A month ago, if you had told her that this was her life, Marinette would have blushed profusely and denied it ever happening. But now, here she was, baking macaroons with Luca in her own home. Marinette had asked him if he wanted to have a baking date. Isn't that just awesome?
Did I fold this enough times? Luca asked, giving the batter another fold.
Marinette peered at it and pursed her lips to a side. It's ready when you can do a figure 8 without it breaking, Marinette instructed. Luca looked at her quizzingly, making her laugh. He clearly did not know what that meant. Here, Marinette said, putting down her bowl. She walked over and took his hand, holding the spatula, and led it into motion. See? It's breaking, so it's not ready yet, she explained. Luca opened his mouth in a silent O shape and nodded, and folded the batter again. Marinette smiled back and scooping up her blue macaroon batters into a piping bag.
Wow, making sweet treats is hard. How do you do it? Luca said in awe.
His batter was done, and he began to fill his bag up. Marinette giggled. It's just in my blood, I guess, she said. Marinette decided to go and be super extra and make music note-shaped cookies. They would be so cute! Even in the week after the encounter with Adrian, Marinette was less scared and more willing to do things that she didn't have a clear answer to. Well, less scared was probably not the correct term. More like tired of not getting what she actually wanted. So Marinette started her secret solo project of making her studio happen. Just the other night, she had drawn up logo designs and had 2 picked out as contenders. Yeah, she was as scared as she had been the first time, but again, Marinette was so tired of settling for safe things. Even Luca was pleasantly surprised when Marinette asked him one morning if he was up for a baking date at her house. Tiki had given her a big hug and smirk when she heard, and Alia screeched her head off. Even though the worries remained in the back of her head, Marinette was enjoying herself, and her hands weren't shaking as bad so the eighth notes weren't turning into big globs of blue.
I wish I had your talent. You're so precise. You can make cool macarons like that, and I can't even make an even circle, Luca sighed.
Marinette blushed and put down the bag of blue batter. That's because you're trying to make a circle. Just place it in one spot and let it do its thing by itself, she laughed. Baking and things like that came naturally to her, so it was always entertaining to see someone not connect the dots immediately. Luca doing it? Well, it was kind of really adorable. It was like a light bulb lit up over his head, and his bright smile and rosy cheeks told Marinette all about how he was feeling.
Oh, that makes so much more sense,
he told He laughed, probably embarrassed. Marinette giggled. It's okay. Baking is new for you. You don't need to know everything or do it all right the first time, she comforted him. He smiled in appreciation. Marinette almost melted. His smile pulled towards the right of his face. It was genuine while mischievous at the same time. Despite his quiet nature, you could see the energy and happiness spilling from him. So, how was the callback? She asked.
It went well, he smiled.
I think you'll get the part, Marinette mused. Luca looked at her graciously, a kind smile on his face.
I hope so. Who's coming to taste these anyways? Luca motioned towards the desserts they were making.
Tiki and Alia. Marinette was really excited to have Luca in her life more and more. And if he was going to have such a big impact on her life, She hoped that he would get along with her friends. She had already met Alia and Tiki, so today they were just coming over to try his first batch of macaroons, and were going to talk to him and get to know him better. Sass was still a person that had yet been introduced to Luca. Hopefully in the near future, though, they would meet and become fast friends. Her parents would probably accept Luca with open arms. He was caring, respectable, and a good man overall. The only person she had to worry about was Plag. The dark-haired fellow always had a hard time speaking to new people and new significant others. Well, to say that he was wary of them was an understatement. He was just as bad as she was when it came to projecting the past. But where Marinette was scared and escaped, Plag was hostile. She didn't blame him, no, not one bit. She hadn't been the only person Agreste had screwed over. His girlfriend may have gotten the worst of it, but his best friends watched him turn into the monster on the sidelines, unable to do a thing. Nino, of course, was so beyond hurt when his best bro began to turn into the jerk they all knew and hated today. Plag, however, he had met Agreste right before the transformation. Plag's dad worked with Agreste during his modeling days, and there being the only two teenagers on set, had become fast friends. It was either that or sit in a business meeting room all day, and that's boring. Plag was a rather antisocial person who actually acted the way a cat would. Hardened glares, incohesive screeches if you came close, all the black clothing attire, classic I hate people vibes. Agreste had managed to make him shed his old fur and become a little bit more open to other people. So when Agreste had surprised Marinette at her job and brought along Plag when he met Tiki for the first time, he didn't, hiss at her. Plag actually blushed and talked to Tiki for a long time, and now they had been dating for over 4 years. It was very sweet. When Agreste began to change, though, that broke Plag's heart. Imagine your only friend, the person who helped you get the love of your life, the one person who broke you out of your shell and turned your life around, became a horrible, cocky, manipulative, and cruel jerk. Yeah, you'd be crushed too.
How much longer do we have to wait? Luca asked as he was staring down the cookies placed on cooling racks.
About 30 seconds less than when I last told you, Marinette laughed.
Luca sighed, fanning the baked cookies with his hands. They smell so good, he moaned.
Marinette shook her head, laughing. I know.
Luca smiled widely and curled his arms around Marinette's shoulders and pulled her in towards his chest, catching her by surprise. She gasped softly and giggled when he looked down at her with a smile. And Marinette could feel her heart begin to race and her voice and her breath become irregular. Everything in Marinette's mind was screaming that this is too soon. Run away. But luckily, Marinette didn't listen and stayed in place. I'd be so happy if this was my life every day, baking cookies with you, Luca mused wistfully. And Marinette felt her cheeks heat up even more, and she hid her face. We're not even officially dating, she giggled. Who knew Luca could be so romantic? Yes, he showed his romantic side through music, but in words? That really made her feel special. He understood his emotions so much he could put it in words and not in his usual language of rhythms and notes. I know, but I can still say I'm excited for what we are, Luca said, and Marinette smiled herself and moved her head closer to him, almost snuggling in while standing up. Me too, she said softly. They stood there for a good 10 minutes. It was warm from the ovens, and there was soft music playing through a speaker, and Marinette looked at the time and tapped a macaroon half. It's ready, she announced, breaking out of Luca's grasp to grab the bags of frosting they had made while the cookies were baking and cooling. She handed one to Luca, who looked at the bag nervously. I feel like I'm going to mess this up, he said with a nervous smile.
But Marinette patted his arm reassuringly. "I'll show you," she said brightly, picking up a cookie. Opening the door, Marinette smiled and gave both Alia and Nino a hug. They lived closer than Tiki, so they got to her house first. Plag had decided to, opt out. He said, "You scheduled me. Not my fault that I can't come eat your food." In reality, he could have been rescheduled, but Plag was totally down for skipping the occasion. "Hi, nice to meet you, Luca." Marinette bit her lip in anticipation as to how Nino would accept Luca. Would he spread his hands wide and allow Luca and their collective lives, or be shut off to perhaps history repeating itself? "Nino, nice to meet you, man," the brunette said, giving a toothy grin and a firm handshake. "Ah, Nino, so welcoming and open. If only Plag could be like that." Nino walked in and began to have small talk with Luca. "Hopefully our boys will be compatible." Alia smiled widely, and Marinette nodded in agreement. And if only Plag would just open his little cold and blackened heart one more time, she mused. That would take a miracle. Alia laughed, and she began to walking back towards the door when they heard a knock. And of course, when they opened it, the smiling red-haired friend of theirs was there. After some hugs and formalities, Marinette floated off to the kitchen to retrieve the cookies with Luca, who was clearly nervous. "It's okay, they'll love it," she reassured him. Luca let out a quick breath and picked up a tray. "I hope so," he said in a small voice. Marinette gently rubbed his left arm as a comfort move and led him back towards where all their friends were. "Here! These are Luca's first batch of macarons," Marinette said excitedly, and all their friends cooed. "My dude, she has definitely got you wrapped around her fingers." "Macarons the first day? I refused to make Alia cookies the day we moved in," Nino joked, and Luca's expression eased up. Alia smacked her boyfriend's arm and glared at him. "So what we're getting is that Luca is a better boyfriend than the official one," she said, cocking an eyebrow. Nino gulped and grabbed a cookie and stuffed it in his mouth, probably to avoid answering. "It's good," he said in mouthfuls and making everyone laugh. Tiki took one of the pink macaroons that Luca made and bit into it gingerly. "It is very good. Macarons are hard to make. You are a special case, Luca," she smiled, making Luca blush. "Thank you," he said. Marinette smiled as she watched Tiki compliment Luca on his cookie achievements, and Nino chatter excitedly about music with him. The DJ was very impressed with Luca's knowledge of dubstep. It made her heart warm. Luca was the newest addition to the most important people to her in her life, and the people that had been by her side for years and years, all getting along and talking like old friends. It was strange for her to think about how this was going to be her new life soon. Even though she and Luca had been taking it slow, it was so different from her life without him, or the one that she had back with Agreste. It was still new, of course, and that freaked her the heck out, but she was pushing through the worry. Marinette giggled at Alia and Nino bickering and then dragging Luca into it. It just made everything seem more real and just all around worth it. Marinette sighed like she was in an adventure wistful movie, sitting atop a mountain that she'd climbed with her lover from Italy, watching the sunset melt out from colors of orange and yellow to pink, blue, and purple. Okay, that was oddly specific. Anyways, Marinette took a bite of the macaroon in her fingertips and smiled proudly of how well Luca had done. Agreste hadn't ever baked cookies with her. In the beginning, it was just because he had never cooked or baked, so he kind of made quite the mess and burned everything. Later, though, it became a job that was far too beneath him. But Luca wasn't like that. He didn't think that cooking and baking was a job too dirty for him. He didn't think that he was king of the world. No, Luca wasn't cocky, nor did he insist on being right even when it didn't matter. He was understanding, nice. Luca was no aggressed. Marinette finally understood that he'd never hurt her like Agreste did. Marinette picked up another macaroon that Luca made, but almost dropped it. Her breath hitched as it dropped into her lap. Gingerly, she picked it up again. However, she didn't feel it between her fingers. It was weird. Really weird. It wasn't the first time she hadn't felt something she held in her hands, but nonetheless, it was strange every time. Marinette? Are you okay? Ollie asked, snapping Marinette out of her little daze. The black-haired girl shook her head around and smiled brightly. Yes, I'm doing great, she said, easing Olia's expression. Marinette brought her hand up, trying not to drop the cookie again, and took a bite. Delicious!